I just want to let our audience know that I kind of jump scared Marshall right before we started recording this. I've been as sick as a dog since Halloween. I think there were 4 days this month I was not sick. And I just kind of jumped on the Discord server and let out a.
Yeah, he let out a mean noise that spooked me. I didn't know what it was at first, but then I realized my headphones were still on, so I had to figure it was him.
Like my Discord is haunted! Did you watch the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight?
Yes, I did, and oh my god, was it awful.
I didn't watch a thing about it, but I was shocked when I heard the outcome.
It's a 58-year-old Mike Tyson.
I
That's like
mean, yeah.
asking like our parents to go out and fight like someone older than us, even in the prime of like their literal life.
We're gonna get Drew
And also,
Aller to fight my mom. We're gonna get him on that. According to NBC, it is the highest streamed sporting event ever, with 65 million live concurrent streams and 108 million total live viewers around the world, according to Netflix, who's trying to transition into sports this year. I believe they're going to be carrying the Christmas Day NFL game, which is super exciting for them.
yes, they will be. And starting 2025, they will be picking up WWE Monday Night Raw.
And since streaming sports seems to be the most efficient way to get live viewers, it's the biggest thing in linear television, it makes sense that they're acquiring all these sports assets.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. Like, what is it? Amazon last year bought Thursday Night Football. So every Thursday Night Football game for the NFL season is now on Amazon, which kind of blows. But if you have Red Zone, you can kind of just counteract this because Red Zone has every single NFL game available to you.
Yeah, I mean, like, that makes sense. The future's kind of here. I haven't watched the Super Bowl on actual television in years now. It's always on, like, Peacock or Disney Plus or whatever.
Yeah, it is always on some other platform.
Yeah, they usually just get a big projector and they put it up on the wall. I was in DC last week.
I
Right
did see
before.
that.
Yeah, right before this. I tried to visit Joe. I tried to go to Joe's house because last time I was in DC, I was able to go check it out with some friends. That's a story for another day. But this time they were prepared. This was the day that Donnie came to town, and so I
Oh, really?
guess
Was it?
yeah, it was. He was in town to visit Joe that morning while I was still on the bus. But by the time I got there, the north side is whoever's doing construction in DC, they knew what they were doing. They knew election's going to be intense. We're going to cut off like the main north sidewalk that you can get your photo with the White House, and they just had this
Of
construction site
course.
there. So I was walking along this park, and there's just this horse that's like following me. This like statey or like I don't even know, like some like federal trooper with like a gun, just
Really?
like chasing me down. Like it was the first time in my life I felt like a military threat like over my head. It was the first time I felt like I could die within an instant, and like the only thing I would know is the sound of this horse. It was very weird.
Yeah, you just heard nonstop galloping.
No, yeah, it's almost like if you were a rebel working to fight against the empire, which is what we're actually talking about this week.
Yeah, God tier transition, by the way. But yes, this week we are reviewing episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Lucas, do you want to take this away?
So the biggest thing that I've noticed is how melodramatic Star Wars is. I guess just going off of watching so many other movies, it's almost strange to go back to this one because everyone delivers their line like they're on a stage, and I don't mean that in an insulting
Yeah.
way. I feel like that's the tone that it sets. Except for Han Solo, Harrison Ford is the only one who feels like an actual person. Is that just me, or am I crazy?
No, no, no. You definitely wouldn't be wrong. You. Oh my God, mean stutter. Please cut that out. Holy shit.
America is a
Okay.
country that can be defined in one word.
No, shut up. You can use that for like the main protagonist and the main antagonist. Like for instance, Luke Skywalker, the way he holds himself throughout this entire goddamn movie, except for I think the one scene where he actually kind of breaks character a little bit when Yoda passes away, and then
Mm.
you also have Emperor Palpatine, who literally just looks like a walking nutsack. I'm sorry to say, and the way that he talks, just like we are going to destroy the rebels, and we are going to take over the galaxy.
Dude,
He
Luke
sounds
is
like
a Luke is a walking diva. Palpatine is the dude at the checkout at your local grocery store who complains that his coupon didn't go through.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. Um, Where can we start with this? What was your funniest moment to find out of the film? Like, what was your
Funniest.
funniest scene?
The only thing that really makes me laugh is probably C-3PO during the first act. Just the chaos surrounding him with Luke's plan to free Han. It's so funny to see how out of the loop 3PO is.
Yeah, R2D2 is even in more of the loop than fucking C3PO is.
3PO is
I
never in the
I
loop.
still I still wonder like how they like. I get C3PO can speak over 6 million languages, but like how come we never get like a description of like what R2D2 is saying to him, yet C3PO we understand word for word.
So
I've
many
always wondered that
expletives.
with Star Wars films.
So many expletives. It would be rated R if we could know what R2D2 was saying.
Oh my god, yeah, you're so right. Actually, now that I think about it, he does say some vile stuff.
I feel like this movie's very strange because it's 3 movies in one. It's very. I've watched the first two, and by the first two I mean episode 4 and 5, more frequently than this one. I think this is the second time I've ever like sat through it in its entirety, and I have to say, it's very weird. Like the first act, the first like 50 minutes of this movie is just a rescue plot, and I like it. I think it's solid. I hate the special edition dance sequence, but we're not going to talk about that. Um,
Yeah, that can be
it's
left in the
so
grave.
cringy. Like even now, like the animation looks so bad. It looks so dated. Um, but the thing that I like most about the first story, if you will, is that it demonstrates Luke's growth as a character. Like this is really his film because he's just ascended to a god tier level when it comes to being a Jedi. He's no longer fearful, he's no longer boyish. He is just powerful, smart, and he's daring even. He's audacious in a way. So seeing excuse me, seeing this plan just kind of unfold, the pacing's slower, but it's sort of like a chapter in a larger epic. Like if Star Wars was a book, this would be a solid chapter or two. And I feel like it's important to tell in Luke's story. Um, the rest of this film is very strange. It is 50-50 the story from the Bible where Christ and Satan are out in the desert arguing for 40 days and the Viet Cong. So I don't know how you really feel about the Ewok scenes, Marshall. I was hoping I went in to give them the benefit of the doubt, saying that it was overhated, but honestly, it's not exciting. I don't really have any reason to watch this movie aside from the Luke and Vader stuff because let me tell you, that stuff is gold. That's some of the most fascinating character-based writing we get out of this franchise, and it's unfortunate that the action sequences are so tame, so unremarkable. And it's not even the Ewoks' fault. It's just that the setting is so familiar that there's nothing really interesting or captivating about the moon that they're on. And also, the worst scene from that is the speed racer chase. Like, there's nothing interesting about that. I
Oh
felt like
my
I was
god,
watching.
yeah, I can agree with you. That scene is terrible.
It's very
Also,
slow.
if you ever played Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, that mission was a goddamn nightmare.
The only two things that were kind of interesting about the Ewok scenes were not really a part of the scenes. It was more the context of them. The first one is that these movies are set in a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago. And to end this, originally to end this trilogy with a planet that looks closer to Earth than any other planet, it seems kind of
Yeah.
fitting that this is the transition point from their time to our time. And the other thing, the only thing I can think of that redeems like the pod racer like race scenes is that it parallels inadvertently it parallels Anakin Skywalker's start when he is a pod racer in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I can definitely see that parallel there. Also, fun fact for all you Star Wars nerds. I don't know if you knew this, Lucas. Do you understand how like lightsabers work?
Not at all. I know there's like crystals that they harvest,
All
I want to
right, so
say.
there's a thing called a kyber crystal, and every single Jedi Padawan has to go into this kind of like cave on a frozen planet. This got explained, by the way, in a Clone Wars episode a long time ago, probably in like 2008,
In a
when
galaxy
they
far,
first
far
started
away.
releasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And they would go into these caves and they would get the crystal, and the color is actually based off of what kind of Jedi you are. So
Mm.
for instance, like you see Obi-Wan and Anakin, they're probably the two most iconic dudes with a blue lightsaber. That just kind of means that they're a very strong soldier. Green represents like how do I describe this? Kind of like the thinking aspect of war.
Ooh.
Like kind of like making moves against your opponent, like as like you're kind of going through it with them. Obviously, the most obvious ones for the green lightsabers are Luke, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Yoda, and then obviously red represents hatred and rage and all the kind of like inner uh, self-esteem problems that people deal with in a regular day-to-day life.
No wonder my
And it's
mom
just
got
kind of
me that one.
personified. But a little fun fact for you guys: a lot of people used to think that the kyber crystal that Luke got for his new lightsaber, because if you remember, he lost his old one at the end of Empire Strikes Back when his hand got cut off, because that was originally Anakin's lightsaber that he was using. This green kyber crystal he got from Qui-Gon Jinn, which was Obi-Wan's master. Which
Really?
is something that is wild to me, that they carried something from an idea of a character that wasn't even invented yet, and they had it implemented into a movie that they released that year.
No, that's sick.
What could I say as far as what my favorite comedy scene was from this movie? Oh, I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. Uh, do you remember the scene? Oh, actually, no. Yeah, you probably do remember this scene. It was the scene when Leia was choking out Jabba the Hutt. I felt like that was my favorite scene as far as a comedy aspect.
That was kind of
Just
funny.
just because of his stupid ass noises that he's make as he's getting choked out, Oonga Toonga, and like all this stupid shit for no reason. I mean, this story was kind of, this movie is probably, as far as a rating standpoint goes, this movie probably is the worst. Not to say that it's not a great movie, but just out of the trilogy that it's been a part of, the other two just have a stronger storyline. It has
Yeah.
less plot holes and a whole bunch of other stuff. As far as where I think the Luke and Vader stuff goes, this is the movie that they needed to really excel on this stuff.
Absolutely.
Because we never really understood until we saw the prequel trilogy how much Anakin or Vader felt about his loved ones, for instance, Padme in the prequel trilogy. And it just to transition into this where he's finally at a point in his life as, this right-hand man to the emperor of the literal galaxy to finally realize, and he's like, maybe I have been doing something wrong my entire life, and maybe I need to see things from a different perspective for once. And we finally do get that at the end of the movie when he apologizes to Luke, and then Luke is dragging his dead corpse onto the, what the hell, I can't think of the ship's name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I did shed a tear when I was rewatching that.
Yeah, no, it was a very heartfelt scene. Very heartfelt.
One of the
scene.
best, probably the best of the entire movie, if not just those last 20 minutes. Oh my gosh, the way they wrap up Luke and Anakin's relationship, and the scene when they're on Endor and like the body's burning and then the Force goes. It is that alone.
Probably,
oh my gosh.
That scene probably is my favorite scene just from like a Star Wars like nerd aspect.
Absolutely.
It's just getting to like, because the other thing that I noticed too, they re-released this movie, which is something that I always questioned way before the prequel trilogy came out. And I don't know if you know this, but you know how you see Hayden Christensen, Anakin's actual actor?
Yeah.
Back when this movie came out, it was just Darth Vader's actor as Anakin, I guess as a placeholder. But that scene as a whole just entices everything for me as far as it ending that trilogy. And the only thing it does suck on is that they didn't exactly help it out too much as far as, the sequel trilogy aspect, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
Because they had no idea that they were going to release a 7, 8, and a 9. They thought this was going to be the end to that story as far as the big film aspect goes.
Yeah, and it is a good end. The only thing I'm a bit disappointed on is that even though we do get a resolution with Leia and Han, they rescue Han, and then these two end up dating, they don't really do much with her character specifically in this movie. I feel like she was kind of wasted in the plot.
Yeah, no, she definitely drowned in the plot compared to all the other characters. But I mean, she had a very big role in Empire Strikes Back in A New Hope. So I mean, I guess I can also kind of see why they kind of put her on the back burner compared to some of the other characters.
Yeah,
especially C-3PO got a big role this movie compared to the last two. Man, I tell you what.
this movie can be trimmed down by 20 minutes and it would be so much better. Like, there's just so many scenes, like the Ewoks worshiping him. Okay, I get it, but we don't need all of that. It feels like there's a little too much fluff, if you will. And while the action isn't great, it could still be trimmed down and it would be like 10 times better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could say that about a lot of movies too.
That's true.
That they could be trimmed down. You know, get rid of some scenes, maybe fine tune some other things. But now let's go back to what I originally asked you. What do you rate this movie?
I'm feeling a 3.5 out of 5 for it. It's good. I feel like there are definitely elements that like raise it up. I feel like the Luke and Vader resolution's really good. The first story, if you will, I don't even know if I'd call it an act. It's more like an individual story. The Jabba story is cool. It's fun. The stuff that drags it down, definitely sort of the ensemble cast. They don't really have any purpose in this movie. The action's a bit redundant. The action isn't all that interesting. All the battle stuff is just kind of lame. But the resolution between Luke and Anakin is top notch, and those last 20 minutes are fantastic. So it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. I don't really have a reason to revisit it unless I'm on a Star Wars binge, but I feel like as an individual movie or even as a sequel, it kind of serves like the same function. It's very different from Toy Story 3 where the context of these characters, where they're at, it can be enjoyed on its own merit. That's how Toy Story 3 is because they set that up in the first act. Here, it's completely dependent on the previous stories, which are good. That doesn't fault it. It is a sequel.
Without at least Empire Strikes Back, you are not understanding what's going on in this film.
Which is okay. You don't need that. But because the other elements aren't as entertaining as they could be in terms of what we're watching between the good guys and the bad guys, I feel like that just makes this a good ending, but not like the most amazing movie I've ever seen. I feel like top 100, maybe it's a stretch, but it's still an enjoyable movie.
This is the movie I've mulled over a while as far as like, where I've rated our past films, because I actually went back and listened to all of our old episodes to make sure I figured out where I was as far as a ranking standpoint. This is going to be my lowest ranked film yet, and I'm putting it at a 3. And that is coming from a Star Wars fan.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That's surprising. I thought for sure you'd be a 3.5 because you are a Star Wars fan. That's crazy.
Yeah, you probably would have thought I'd been at a 4. But no, this movie gets a harsh ranking out of me simply because of the fact that, I don't know, the character development besides really Luke just wasn't there for me.
I agree.
Oh, the Luke and Vader.
Yeah.
Besides those two, the character development wasn't there. The story, I kind of agree with you that it had a lot of points in it where it was just like, what are we doing? Like, let's focus on the big picture here compared to doing all this nonsense. As far as like what this film brings, at least out of the joyous aspect of Star Wars fans, this probably has the third best lightsaber fight in it between Luke and Vader, right before Palpatine actually decides to use his powers for once.
That's a good scene.
That is probably the only redeeming quality I have for this, and the last like 5 minutes when you see Yoda, Anakin, and Obi-Wan looking over at Luke. Like that's really all I have for this. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow. Okay, Marsh, getting your critic's hat on. I like it. I respect it. I was thinking of a 3, but like I enjoyed it enough where 3.5 worked for me. But I completely agree with all your points. As far as where it's going, well, let's take a look. We got Kiru at the bottom, then The Apartment, then Singing in the Rain, then Lawrence of Arabia, then Toy Story 3. I'm thinking better than Singing in the Rain, below Lawrence of Arabia.
I'm cool putting this third. I completely agree. I'm cool putting this third.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. So next week we will be reviewing Princess Mononoke, a Studio Ghibli film that I've heard fantastic stuff about. I'm super excited to check it out.
I have not heard a word about this film, so this will be a new thing for me.
Yeah, no, I only heard it from my roommates. They said, "Oh, you're watching that? Oh, that's a banger." So I'm excited to see if they're right. Also, fun fact.
Absolutely.
Do you remember Prince Faisal from Lawrence of Arabia? He was the dude who Lawrence was going to consult at the beginning. Did you know that's Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Really?
That's Alec Guinness, yes.
I never realized that, and I didn't even see it in the credits when I was watching it. Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. The more
At
you
first,
know.
when you said Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was like, Ewan McGregor.
Oh
What?
yeah, he was a fetus. Yeah, he was pre-birth. Yeah. I don't even know if he was alive then. It was like early 60s.
Oh man. All right. Well, I think this is where we're wrapping up this episode for this week, people. So please tune in to our YouTube to see when this podcast episode gets dropped. You can also go subscribe to our Instagram, and you can also follow me at slarshbonez.twitch.tv.
Later.